What if a simple cup of coffee led to the unraveling of a billion-dollar betrayal? One quiet waitress overhears a secret no one was supposed to hear. A powerful man's closest friend, planning to steal everything behind his back. She could have walked away, but what she did next changed her life forever. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and let us know where in the world you're watching from. Make sure to watch this video till the end, because in the final moments you'll see the journey from an entirely new perspective. Now let's jump into the story. Nia wiped her hands on her apron, the scent of fresh coffee clinging to her fingers. Morning light streamed through the tall windows of Cafe Mondale, a sleek spot where business suits outnumbered blue jeans, and latte foam was more art than drink. It was the kind of place where powerful people made powerful decisions, while pretending not to notice the staff that kept their cups full. To most, Nia was invisible. A shadow in the corner, a polite smile with a name tag. And that was fine. She liked observing, listening. People revealed strange things when they thought no one important was around, but nothing she'd overheard in her 3 years as a waitress could prepare her for what she heard that morning. She was carrying a tray of cappuccinos to table 9 when she passed Colby Ward and Darian Holt, 2 regulars who always sat in the corner booth. Both wore suits more expensive than her rent, and both had the confident air of men who were used to winning. They were co-founders of Nexarin Technologies, a rising star in artificial intelligence and, according to the tabloids, lifelong best friends. This morning, though, something was different. Colby looked relaxed, sipping an espresso and scrolling on his tablet. But Darian was all energy, talking fast, smiling wide, leaning close. To new beginnings, Darian said, raising his glass of sparkling water. Colby chuckled. And bigger profits. Nia smiled politely as she passed, but as she walked away, Darian's voice dropped just enough for her to catch a few words. By tomorrow afternoon, he'll sign it, and he won't know a thing until it's too late. Nia paused, not stopped, just slowed slightly. Her tray hovered over a table. Her ears sharpened. Once his name's on the dotted line, Darian continued, his voice low but clear. It's mine. The whole company. He'll be out before he even realizes what hit him. Nia blinked. Her heart skipped. Was she hearing this right? She glanced back. Colby was laughing at something on his screen, completely unaware. Darian was already answering a phone call, turning away. She could have walked on. She could have told herself it was none of her business. And really, what did she have to gain from warning a billionaire who probably didn't know she existed? But something inside her itched. Maybe it was the way Darian had smirked. Maybe it was because she'd seen too many good people fooled by smiling faces. Nia returned to the counter, heart thudding in her chest. She pretended to tidy the pastry display while watching the 2 men from the corner of her eye. A few minutes later, Darian stood, phone pressed to his ear. I'll step out to take this, he said. Now it was just Colby, still calm, still clueless. Nia hesitated. Then, before her nerves could catch up with her, she picked up a fresh napkin and 2 sugar packets and walked back over. Need anything else, sir? She asked, setting the sugar down. Colby looked up, distracted. No, I'm good. Thanks. She lowered her voice slightly. I know I'm just a waitress, but maybe don't sign anything tomorrow. He blinked. What? She forced a small smile. I overheard your friend saying something about the company. About you signing a contract, he said, when once you sign, he gets everything. Colby tilted his head. Excuse me? I know how it sounds, Nia said quickly, already regretting her decision. But he wasn't exactly whispering. He said you'd be out of your own company and wouldn't even know how it happened. He frowned. You're saying, Darian... Look, maybe I misunderstood, she said, backing away. But if someone overheard my best friend plotting against me, I'd want to know. Colby didn't answer. He just stared at her for a long moment, as if seeing her for the first time. Then he said quietly, Thank you. Nia nodded and walked away, cheeks burning. The rest of her shift passed in a blur. Every time she glanced over, Colby was no longer smiling. His eyes flicked toward the door. When Darian returned, he acted normal, but something had shifted. By the end of the day, Nia felt like she'd stepped into something far too big for her. She left through the back door, cold wind biting at her cheeks, wondering if she'd just done something incredibly brave or incredibly foolish. She didn't sleep well that night. And the next morning, when a black car pulled up outside her building and a man in a tailored suit stepped out, holding a silver envelope and calling her name, she realized that what she'd overheard in the steam of a cafe might be the beginning of a very different kind of life. Nia stood at her front door in pajamas and socks, staring at the sleek black car idling at the curb. It looked like something from a movie, polished, quiet, expensive. The man who stepped out wore a dark gray suit and held a white envelope in his gloved hand. He walked straight toward her without hesitation. "Miss Nia Carter?" Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. She nodded. "I have a delivery from Mr. Colby Ward. He asked me to give this to you in person." He held out the envelope. Nia hesitated, then took it slowly. "What is this?" she asked, but the man was already turning away. "The message explains everything," he said simply, then got into the car and drove off. Nia closed the door, heart pounding. She turned the envelope over in her hands. There was no logo, no return address, just her name, handwritten in silver ink. Inside, she found two things: a small metal key, shiny and cold in her palm, and a short note written on thick paper. "Thank her. We need to talk. Come to the address below. CW." Nia stared at it, reading it 3 times. Then she looked at the key again. Apartment key? Office? Safe deposit box? This was way above her pay grade. For the next hour, she paced her tiny living room, chewing on the edge of the note. Part of her wanted to forget the whole thing and go back to her shift at Cafe Mondale like nothing had ever happened. But the other part, the part that couldn't stop wondering what Darian had meant, was louder. By noon, curiosity won. The address led her to a glittering building downtown, the kind where the doorman wears white gloves and speaks in complete sentences. He was expecting her. "Miss Carter, please take this access card," he said, handing her a thin silver badge. "Penthouse. Mr. Ward is waiting for you." Nia's stomach fluttered as she stepped into the elevator. Her sneakers squeaked slightly on the marble floor. The elevator rose quickly, stopping at the very top. The doors opened into a sunlit space that looked more like a museum than an apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows. A grand piano in the corner. Art she didn't recognize but knew was expensive. Colby Ward stood near the window, holding a glass of amber-colored liquid. He looked over as she stepped in. "You came," he said, his voice calm. Nia didn't smile. "You sent a car to my house, kind of hard to ignore." He chuckled softly and gestured to the couch. "Please sit." She didn't. "If this is about me eavesdropping, I swear I wasn't trying to—" "It's not," Colby interrupted. "You heard something important, something that confirmed a few suspicions I've had for a while." Nia raised her eyebrows. "So, you believe me now?" "I do," he said. "Last night I looked into a few things, financial records, internal memos. My legal team found several red flags." She crossed her arms. "So Darian really is trying to take over your company?" Colby nodded. "He's been transferring assets into side companies, ones I didn't even know existed. If I'd signed that document tomorrow like he planned, he would have taken control of Nexarin without firing a shot." Nia whistled. "And you're still drinking whiskey like it's just a casual Tuesday?" "I'm a little more used to betrayal than I'd like to admit," Colby said, his eyes distant. "But this time, I have a chance to stop it. Because of you." He walked over and placed the same key from the envelope onto the table between them. "That's the key to an apartment," he said. "It's yours, no matter what you decide. A thank you." Nia blinked. "Excuse me?" "I know it sounds strange, but you took a risk. You told me something no one else would have dared to say. I want to return the favor." She shook her head, confused. "This is insane. Yesterday I was serving espresso. Today I'm in a penthouse being offered real estate by a billionaire. Colby smiled slightly. That's not all. I want you to help me. Nia laughed. With what? You've got lawyers, investigators, probably, even hackers. What could I possibly do? You're the only one who heard Darian's words, and more importantly, you're the only one he doesn't suspect. You blend in. He'll never see you coming. Nia crossed her arms. You want me to spy on your best friend? Colby nodded. I want you to listen, observe, take notes. Anything you hear, anything odd, you report back to me. You'll have help. At that moment, another person entered the room. A tall man in his 40s with sharp features and a quiet confidence. This is Lennox, Colby said. Private. Investigator. He'll be your partner. Lennox gave her a polite nod. I'll handle the legal and technical side. You just be yourself and stay alert. Nia looked from Colby to Lennox. This is completely crazy. Colby placed a phone and a small recorder on the table. Sometimes the right thing feels that way. She hesitated, then picked up the euro key again. I'll think about it, she said. Colby smiled. That's all I ask. Nia stood outside the towering glass building of Nexarin Technologies, her fingers tight around the visitor badge clipped to her coat. The morning sun reflected off the windows, making the whole place shine like a monument. People in suits moved, quickly in and out, their expressions sharp, their steps purposeful. She took a deep breath. Okay, Nia, just pretend this is a really fancy cafe with weirder coffee orders, she whispered to herself. Inside, the air buzzed with activity. Screens flashed, phones rang. The energy was different from the cafe, colder, faster. She found her way to the company cafe on the first floor, where employees took meetings over lattes and closed deals between muffins. Lennox was already waiting near a corner booth. He wore a plain navy suit and held a coffee he hadn't touched. Welcome to the shadows, he said, sliding a small device across the table. This recorder is tiny and silent. All you have to do is slip it under the main chair in conference. Room 6B. Darian has a meeting there in 10 minutes. Nia picked up the recorder carefully. You're really trusting a waitress to pull this off? Lennox smirked. You're not just a waitress anymore. You're the one who cracked open this whole plan. Let's see what else you can do. Her stomach twisted with nerves, but she nodded. 10 minutes later, Nia stepped into conference room 6B, pretending to clean up from the last meeting. She straightened chairs, adjusted cups, and quietly slid the recorder under the center seat. Just before the door opened, Darian walked in, speaking loudly into his phone. Yes, I'll get Colby to sign today. He's ready. The fool still thinks I'm doing him a favor. Nia froze mid-wipe but kept her back to him. Her heart pounded. Darian didn't even notice her. He moved to the whiteboard and started scribbling notes as he kept talking. We'll finish the transfer by end of day. Nexarin is mine. He won't know what hit him. When he finally left, Nia grabbed her phone and messaged Lennox. Got it. He just confirmed the takeover. A few minutes later, her phone buzzed again. This time it was Colby. Come to the apartment tonight. We need to act fast. That evening, Nia sat in the penthouse living room again, this time with her hands wrapped around a mug of tea. Lennox connected the recorder to his laptop. The room filled with Darian's voice, clear and undeniable. Colby paced while listening, jaw tight. This confirms everything, Lennox said. He's been planning this for months. Nia leaned back, her mind racing. What now? Can we go to the police? Colby shook his head. Not yet. We need him to make the final move. If we stop him now, he'll claim it's all a misunderstanding. Nia raised an eyebrow. You want him to actually go through with the takeover attempt? Colby nodded slowly. Yes, but on my terms. Tomorrow we give him papers to sign, only they won't give him control of the company. They'll confirm his illegal actions. You're going to trap him, she said. Exactly, Lennox replied. We'll record him again, this time signing a document that exposes the fraud. Then the evidence will be airtight. Nia blew out a breath. That's a bold plan. Colby met her eyes. So is yours. You've done more than most professionals would, thank you. She gave a half smile. I'm still not sure how I ended up in all this. Because you listened, he said. You saw something wrong and you didn't stay quiet. The next morning was colder than usual. Nia wrapped herself in her coat and returned to Nexarin, this time not as a visitor but with quiet confidence. Colby had arranged for her to pose as an office assistant, giving her access to the conference floor where the trap would be set. She kept her head down, carried folders, and avoided eye contact, just another employee doing her job. Darian arrived right on time. His briefcase was tucked under his arm, his smile sharp and full of confidence. He stepped into the glass-walled meeting room where Colby already waited. Ready to make it official? Darian said, opening his case. Colby smiled. Ready when you are. Nia stood just outside, pretending to type something on a tablet, while Lennox monitored the audio feed from a nearby office. Inside, the men exchanged documents. Darian pushed his toward Colby with flair. It's all there. Just your signature left. Colby picked up a pen. You know, it's funny how much trust we put in paperwork. Darian laughed. That's business. Trust and contracts. Colby signed slowly, carefully, then handed the papers back. Congratulations, he said calmly. Darian beamed. You won't regret it. Oh, Colby replied. But you might. Nia stepped in then, and before Darian could respond, Lennox entered behind her, with 2 officers in plain clothes. Darian Holt, one said, flashing a badge. You're under arrest for fraud, conspiracy, and financial misconduct. Darian froze. What? This is some kind of mistake. Colby held up the papers. No mistake. You just signed a document that lists every single illegal transfer you made, all in your name. Darian's face drained of color. You set me up. Colby looked at him. No. You set yourself up when you tried to betray someone who trusted you. As the officers led Darian out, Nia leaned toward Colby. You really flipped the game on him. Colby smiled faintly. With your help. She folded her arms. So, now what? He turned to her. Now, we talk about your future. The quiet after the storm was almost louder than the storm itself. Nia sat in the same leather chair in Colby's penthouse, this time not as a nervous visitor, but as someone who had helped pull off a plan that saved an entire company, and possibly a legacy. The recording was done. The signature was in. Darian had been led out in handcuffs, still shouting excuses that no one believed. Now the city lights sparkled below, and Colby poured 2 glasses of sparkling water instead of whiskey. I still can't believe he didn't see it coming, Nia said, watching the bubbles rise in her glass. He trusted I wouldn't question him, Colby replied. That was his biggest mistake. Nia gave a small smile. People underestimate what others see when they think no one's paying attention. Colby raised his glass slightly. To quiet observers, they clinked glasses, then he turned serious. There's something I'd like to ask you. Nia sat up straighter. Uh-oh. That tone usually comes with a job offer or a warning. Maybe a bit of both, he said, then slid a sealed folder across the coffee table toward her. Open it. Nia hesitated, then flipped it open. Her eyes scanned the title, Director of Integrity and Internal Operations, Nexarin Technologies. She looked up, wide-eyed. You're offering me a job? Colby nodded. You've already proven you can notice things others miss. You're honest, sharp, and brave enough to speak up, even when no one asks you to. That's exactly the kind of person I want watching over my company. Nia stared at the folder. I've never worked in an office before. I've never even owned a suit. You'll learn, Colby said. We all start somewhere. She let out a slow breath. This morning I was wiping coffee off someone's table. Now I'm being offered a leadership role in a billion-dollar company. It's not about your background, he said. It's about your backbone. There was a long pause as Nia stared out at the skyline. Okay, she said finally. I'm in, but I want one condition. Colby raised an eyebrow. Name it. I still get to visit the cafe. I liked that part of my life. It kept me grounded. He laughed. Deal. Though I can't promise your barista days are totally behind you. 2 weeks later, Nia stepped into her new office at Nexarin. The Fight Dyna windows stretched across an entire wall, giving her a view of the city that once seemed far away. Now it felt like part of her story. She was dressed in a simple dark blazer and comfortable shoes. No flashy jewelry. No heels. Just Nia, only now with a badge that carried a bit more weight. Her desk was already set up, and a nameplate read, Nia Carter, Director of Integrity. She couldn't help but smile. It sounded like something out of a movie, but it was real. She was here. She had stepped into a world she never asked to be a part of, but had ended up changing. As she sat down, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Colby. "Still glad you overheard that conversation?" Nia typed back without hesitation, more than ever. She set the phone aside and looked out the window, thinking about how fast life could change when you speak up instead of staying silent. A knock came at the door. It was Lennox, holding a file in one hand and a coffee in the other. "Thought you might need this," he said. Nia grinned and took the cup. "You're learning." "New case just came in," he added. "Anonymous tip about a regional manager doing something shady with supplier contracts." She raised an eyebrow. "Already?" "Scandals never sleep," Lennox replied with a shrug. Nia stood up, already reaching for a notepad. "All right then, let's do what we do best." He smiled. "You're really fitting in." Nia walked beside him toward the hallway. "I'm not trying to fit in," she said. "I'm trying to change how things work." Outside the building, the cafe across the street was still busy. Nia glanced at it as she passed the window, watching another young waitress take an order, smiling at customers who barely looked up. She smiled to herself. Some people stay invisible their whole lives. Others, like her, take a chance and speak up. And sometimes when they do, they don't just change their own lives. They change everything.